Yeah,
That must be you, Jay.
that's
Or
not me.
someone. Okay.
Yeah, that's not me. So just by way of checking in, this is our this is let's see, Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. I almost want to just say, welcome to the small group coaching. Stop everything else you're doing and trade Mexico, EWW, every day on 3 minutes until I tell you to stop. Jesus H. Christ. What a day. Drives me freaking berserk. Anyway, uh, I'll go ahead and get us started. Um, you see that little diagram you see in the back is the pitch that I used to persuade our three-star general to support true storytelling in our Army leader curriculum across the entire range of Army professional military education, which is 25 schools, 7,000 faculty, and 200,000 students a year. And what I told them up front was that what you want is creativity because it helps you solve problems better, and that if we could just get a 3% improvement in performance per year, that would be worth $35 billion to Department of Defense with its $1 trillion budget. And he realized quickly that it was the potential for improved problem solving in every transaction between any two leaders that allowed us to not think about compounding annually, but compounding at the cyclic rate of transactions. And so anytime any two Army leaders, any two soldiers come together, if they were just a little more creative, we might solve problems just a little bit better. You multiply that by every interaction across the Department of the Army, and it's phenomenal. I just got a signal that my recording ran out of space, so stand by while I fix that. That means I have a problem in my setup. Bear with me. Sorry about that. Yeah, so anyway, the that pitch is that the direct sales pitch was that storytelling provably improves creative problem solving. But if you add true storytelling to it, you add those principles of ethics, non-judgment, making space for everybody's voice to be heard, and genuinely listening without judgment until everybody's had their full say, you have taken a deliberate step over the ethical boundary away from value neutral things like rhetoric and marketing and advertising and evil persuasion. You're using your power for good, and that the true storytelling allows us to reinforce Army leadership values like team building, resilience, improved change management, improving plans and operations across the board. And so it's the ethical dimension of true storytelling that gives it the special sauce. And what I told him was I needed to be upfront with him that as I'm writing the 15 hours of curriculum that he's given us for next year, which is about 4% of all of our leader development across the year, we have 600 contact hours a year in the structured part of our course. We're getting 15 hours of that, so that's 4%. That I was going to be deliberately adding the true storytelling principles precisely because it reinforces Army leadership values and what we're trying to do with teams. So, but I needed to tell him that I wasn't doing a bait and switch on him, but he was getting an and plus, not either or. He was getting and more, which he was appreciative of. So that's one of the advantages of being in a group setting like this, because as I was going over a recent purchase. It was the Encyclopedia of Creativity Research. It's about 1,500 pages. And one of the things that it says is that the common myths about creativity is that it's a solitary event. It comes out of nowhere by surprise. It's a mysterious force. The moment of insight leads to transformative insight. When in fact, what the literature shows over the last 50 years is that it's really more likely to be domain specific, the resting on a foundation of deep knowledge in a particular area, in the collaboration between other motivated subject matter experts that are working on difficult problems, and that you get iterative moments of insight that get rapidly incorporated into what you're doing, and you're improving the stew as you go. And that is much more likely the way that innovative products that last, or innovative artifacts that last, substantive change that endures, is much more likely to occur in that kind of a model. So as I was going through the research and I started comparing it to how we've structured the creativity course, the foundations course, the small group coaching, that we are very well aligned with what the literature says will lead to professional development that endures. So I just wanted to let you know you're in good hands. You're in the right place for all of that. We got a year-long program. And I feel a certain urgency to get going, like trading EWW on the 3 minutes. Let's go. But I also want to just say that you've got time to be thinking about this project in a number of time frames, what you want to accomplish at the end of a year, at the end of this quarter, at the end of this month, and what you want to accomplish each particular week. And that thing can be a moving target. It should be written in pencil, and preserved as you get more and more clarity about what it is you specifically want to get. But at the same time, recognizing that it would not be unusual for goals to shift and new ideas come into play that you want to explore, and that we have the flexibility to do all that. I distinguish the small group coaching program from the foundations course and the creativity course in the following way: that in foundations, I'm dictating, I'm lecturing on things that I'm here to teach about, that people want to learn very specific rules about blocking and tackling and systems and all that, and concepts. So we've got a glossary and systems definitions and rules-based processes. In the creativity course, that relaxes a bit because there's some structure that comes from going through the 30 lessons that Fletcher talks about and that I have supplemented. And so then we go our individual ways with each lesson to see where it leads us, and then come back and report about how did that common prompt or trigger cause us to go out and investigate the world in unusual ways and come back and talk about it. So that's a semi-structured approach with respect to organized lessons and a learning pathway. The small group coaching, in my mind, is much more on your end for flexibility and co-creation of your learning journey. And that I view my role here as a resource and a facilitator and a critical thinker and an accountability partner, a scribe, lending structure to the group effort, and providing the framework for learning to occur. So there's a slight difference in the approach that I adopt based on what it is that, I'm doing in a particular meeting. So I wanted you to, just kind of be advised about that. And if you've had a chance to see some of the group one coaching, you will have seen that a lot of times it's the guys are coming in, they have very clear things to report on, very clear thoughts about what their next goal is, the next tasks, the things they plan to do, and they're just kind of checking in, before launching, waiting for a veto or something, or just confirmation. And in other places where we're genuinely having question and answer sessions where I might adopt more of a lecturing kind of a tone or offer some ideas for consideration. And that's always the framework allows us to be flexible in that sense. So that's what I want to try to get to. I will conclude by saying the clock starts officially, whatever, for the year's program starting next week. Next Tuesday will be the official day one of the program. So it'll go through May of 2025, God willing, and the river don't rise. And so we've got a long cross-country wagon train to get on board with. But we got lots of food and victuals and water and ammunition and oxen and good people to ride with. So we're in good shape. So that's what I wanted to say. Now, if one of you guys want to go ahead and get us started on self-introductions, and we can kind of ease into it. And any questions about anything I've said or where we're going, or thoughts in general about the project, we can listen to those too.
Well, I'll go first, get it out of the way. This is Joe, down here in St. Augustine, Florida. And I'm still sort of trying to see what fits well as far as an outline of objectives for this course, but it's along the lines of improving my daily routine really from start to finish, and to actually back off and trade 7 to 10 symbols using the 4 basic patterns on a short-term basis, and perhaps work on some longer term trades using global macro themes, combining technical analysis perhaps with a little bit of deep value and other areas. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but I want to make sure I'm completely comfortable with it before I get started. So within a couple of days, Ken, I'm going to send you an outline to take a look at and give me some feedback on. But I want something workable. I've been on the road more than 50% of the time year to date. And a week from next Monday, I don't have anything planned. I canceled my next couple of trips. Managed to catch a cold in Texas last week, and that was kind of a miserable experience. So I decided to back off a little bit, reset, work on routine and health a bit. And, I think this could be a really good venue for that. Along those lines, my weak point has always been journaling trades, and I'm about to make a shift. Damien, thank you for telling me how bad the Schwab switchover was from TD, because I've been experiencing a little bit of that. And I'm looking at Interactive Brokers and TC2000 as my mix here. But again, I just need to make sure I'm budgeting energy properly so that I can trade both of those platforms effectively. In the middle of the Malden conference right now, and a lot of big thinkers there that'll scare the heck out of you when you listen to them. I used to go to that conference just to keep myself from getting too giddy, and no different this year. But there's a lot of tradable ideas coming out of that, and some interesting science long term that we can chat about. I'm happy to share my notes when I get them all put together. But you know, the general theme is there's an awful lot of smart people canceling each other out here right now, and it gives AI an opportunity to beat us. So we better be on our game, and stuff like this, I think, is a true edge. That's it for me.
Gotcha.
Oh, by the way, when I was in Dallas, Ken,
Yeah.
I stayed at the house of a retired Army Ranger who pheasant hunts at least once a year with one of your fellow faculty members. And I did not write a name down, but I will get it
Oh,
for you. Yeah. He had some great
did
stories.
you have the ranger's name or the faculty member's name?
The Ranger was Joe Rains was his name, and he's been CEO of a couple tennis shoe companies, and a great guy in retirement now, but he still hunts as his most favorite hobby. And he told me the name of your fellow faculty member a couple times, but I was under the weather and not recording much last week. So
Yeah.
that's it for me.
Okay.
I can go next. Okay, so I'm Kevin Rudicop. I'm Canadian from Canada, Central Prairies. So Montana, straight north, couple hours. I'm a mechanical engineer by education. I've been machine design, that kind of thing. So, and I've owned a manufacturing company for, I don't know, 20 years. Mostly in agriculture and oil industry, kind of transition from one to the other. So in the process of kind of unwinding all that over the last couple of years, and it's kind of coming to head now. The last of it's going away, or as we speak. So I'm kind of in a I don't know. I'm just it's weird. I've been in family companies since I was 22. So I've never been without a job or an income. It's an interesting experience here. So I'm kind of in a lot of flux. I'm in the process of, my full intention is to transition into being a full-time professional trader. I understand how much work it took me to get where I was in my last profession, and I don't expect this to go quickly, but and I'm not sure exactly what area I want to go into. I'm looking for I've worked too much, much too much, and I'm looking for a way to balance the fact that I do enjoy work and I put effort in. And I love to learn. I have a good appetite for new things. And so I'm trying to balance all that with having some time here where I have a life. So I don't know what that looks like from a trading perspective. So that's part of the reason one of the main reasons I'm here. I want to hopefully move to higher time frames, or like longer time frames, where I can spend a little bit more time away from my computer. And my history would be dividend growth investing, positionally, in and out, mostly oil, resources, Western Canadian stuff. So this is quite different for me, fast paced on a 3 minute, and trying to transition out of that to the 30. And also, as I kind of get rid of the company, I'm not sure what to do with my portfolio as a whole, kind of. So that's something I want to work on, because I don't want to rely straight on trading, and I want to have an investment side that I'm not sure what to do with. So those would be my major reasons I'm here, and really looking forward to it. So it's good.
Conducting a reconnaissance at strategic and tactical level. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Well, I guess I can go next. I my name is Damien Brookout, out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. not my hometown. My hometown is across the town in Europe. Um, I basically started to trade, you know, when I have a 401k and just having monthly withdrawals from my checking account going, I mean, not checking account, payroll, and going directly and investing for the long term. And in 2016, I became ill, so I had to basically stop working. And a year later, both of my parents passed away, and so I was lucky enough to be able to what I would call retire, thanks to the blessings that I got from my parents. And I'm very good at investing long term. If I didn't have the long-term portfolio that I have, I would be, due to my day-to-day trading, I would be in the red big time. I would be in real financial trouble. I started with Ken 2.5 years ago. Him and I met in April of last year, face to face, when he came to Pittsburgh for a seminar. And no, was it last year, Ken, or was it 2 years ago? I don't even remember. But it doesn't matter. Well, I think it was last year.
I think it was, yeah, last spring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, it was, yeah, we were in Pittsburgh for the Association for Business Simulation and Experiential Learning. It was there doing some lectures
that's right.
on personal
So
development, systems thinking. Yep.
Yeah, we had dinner together. My wife was with us, and we had a good time. And the reason I decided to get this group coaching is I'm realizing that I'm very close to the goal to become profitable, but I have something that's missing, and my critical eye, if I could use it that way, or thinking, is not able to touch it. It's not able to see what adjustments I need to make to be consistent over the long term. And so that's the reason why I'm here, so I can do some brainstorming, get some ideas from you guys and from Ken to be able to move forward. And I want to do something similar to Kevin. I want to get away from being in front of a screen 8 hours a day. Probably do longer time frame, because I'm trading now the 1 minute, because that's the way I was taught when I started this in 2017. And I hesitate for one reason or the other, going to a longer time frame. But I would rather have more time so I can enjoy my family. I don't really want this to become, like in the old days, a job. I'm doing this to be able to increase my income, but at the same time to be able to enjoy retirement. So that's basically where I'm at.
Jay, what you got for us?
Well, it's funny. I recognize Damien and Kevin from other videos that I've watched, other podcasts. I've known Joe for probably, I don't know, 25 years, maybe, about. And one of my best friends in college worked at LPL, and my dad was retiring and was moving, and he connected me with Joe, and that's how I got to know Joe many years ago. So I've been trading for a long time. I guess a couple of things I would say to first to Kevin is that um, I've been trading full time for a living since 2008, and I started out small. I started with managed accounts, which would be like Joe would put money at this time was Options Express, which Schwab ruined, like that movie Rain Man. Kmart sucks. Well, Schwab sucks. I can promise you that. But I started out with small managed accounts and um, grew them, and then I started a fund in November of 2010, and it's I only trade S&P 500 options. I'm incredibly lucky. I was on an all guys ski trip, and one of the guys that I roomed with was a market maker, and we kept this trip together going for about 15 years. And I was in the pharmaceutical business and absolutely hated it. Hated the corporate culture, etc. And the company got bought out, and everybody I had, aligned myself with was gone. And we'd go to meetings, and they would ask. The company got so big, they would say, "Are you legacy Warner Lambert or Searle or Upjohn?" And if your answer was you were legacy Pfizer, you were immediately 25 to 30 IQ points ahead of everybody else. It just got miserable. So Clay taught me how to trade, and he was a market maker. He retired when he was 38, and that's kind of how I got my start. I currently trade about 60 million, a little more, and I will tell you that the trading's a full-time job. To think that I having watched Ken for a few months now, Ken probably has the ability to work 2 days a week and make a living at it. Um, if I had that skill set, that may be what I would do, right? But it does take a lot of work. But once you get your hands around it, you can do really well. So I'm an options guy. I'm happy to have some one-offs. I can show you guys some easy things to do with options to make some money. But selling options and trading are two different things. When you sell options, you're basically a risk manager. So I've been a risk manager for almost 20 years. So what does that mean? It means that if the S&P 500 is trading at, call it 5,100, I may say, okay, I'll sell the 4,700 put 3 weeks out, and I'll collect that premium. And that's not trading. You're just basically, you're waiting for a bomb to go off and explode. Okay. But you can make a lot of money doing it, and I have. But I'm here because I really want to get better at the intraday day trades, which I had some success today, but it's not as successful as I think it could be. And I'm not trying to hit home runs. I'm a huge believer that the real money comes from, one, limiting your losses, and two, singles and doubles. That's really what I'm all about, is hitting singles and doubles. And for the S&P, I'm really only trying to capture $3 to $5 on 10 contracts in a personal account, and maybe 100 to 200 in the fund that I manage. That's all I need. Sounds simple, but it's a little more difficult than I thought it would be. But I'm excited to be here. I really do believe in the systems and what we're learning. I mean, even though I've been looking at the screens for 20 years, this is completely different, and I know it works. I just got to get it working with the options, and the options are a little trickier. Today I had a pretty good day. But when I would get a long signal, instead of buying a call, I would sell the put, and vice versa, because then I'm taking advantage of the time decay and as it moves away. And that was pretty successful. And at the end of the day, I got really lucky because I had sold a put and closed it, and I sold it at like $3 and closed it at like almost $1. and that put closed at over $20 today. So that would have been nasty had I sold the put for $1 and then it goes to 20. That's not good. But so that's kind of what I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to just to hone in the skills, develop that critical eye. I typically watch the nightly podcast, and what I like is when Ken covers the chart and shows what you see in real time. It's easy to look at a chart in any time frame once it's already done and said, okay, this is what I would do. But in real time, to me, the best analogy, it's like an anatomical model, right? I mean, a patient, you look at these anatomical models that I call it in all these teaching institutions, and everything looks real clear. But when you're in surgery and that gut is exposed, it's not clear at all, but to a trained eye, they know what they're looking at. And so I'm really trying to develop that. I asked Joe to take this class with me because we have a lot in common, and I think he'd be a good accountability partner. And that's it, really. I just, I'm a firm believer you can learn from anybody, and I feel like I owe it to my clients to try to get better and better at what I do. It's one thing to manage your own money. It's another thing when you've got people that give you, the majority of their money to trade and so forth, and it's a lot of responsibility. And so I feel like I owe it to them. And what I love about this, if I can do it, the greatest thing in the world is to, as an options trader, is to come in and the market crash and you're in cash. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can just absolutely rake it up like a bank vault. And the worst thing as an options trader is to have on small positions and come in and the market crash, and all of a sudden you're just scrambling to save your life. So I'm here to get better doing that, help manage the risk, and try to contribute. That's basically it. We're all trying to get better, but one of the most poignant things that on one of the videos that Ken said was, the secret sauce is not a secret, but it's rare. To me, that just boils down to position size. You know what I mean? I'm never going to hit the grand slam home run, but I'm also not going to get wiped out on any one bad day. So. And I also worked on the oil rig, so an oilman there. I was I did that was one of the funnest jobs I ever had when I was like 17. I was a roustabout, is what they called it, for Mobil Oil in the Mobile Bay. So that's it.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much deeper tonight. I mean, let me come and hit my frame of reference, as one of the guys around the round table here. This little set of icons behind me was what I constructed for the quantum storytelling conference in Nashville. So my doctoral mentor, David Boji, is a Vietnam vet enlisted guy, probably certifiable nutcase, invented the entire field of organizational storytelling about 40 years ago, and is still the #1 cited academic scholar in that field by a factor of 3. The next closest guy has about 1/4 of the citations that he has. Just incredibly influential in the world of language, truth-telling, change management, and the modern world. He sort of is a bomb-throwing lunatic who is married a wonderful woman who is also a PhD, who uses horses for therapy and has worked in the indigenous ways of knowing, alternate forms of making sense of the world outside of the Western objective scientific method. Well, I come from the scientific method. I mean, I'm an unskilled shop monkey in the automobile industry, making, bending tubing to make brake systems for family cars, and that shit's got to work. And so you wouldn't pick me to be the guy for mission critical part making, but that's who was available for them to hire to make a living at it. And my dad was in charge of quality control, self-taught engineer, quality control guy for ages, and hydraulics engineer. And he was the guy that could figure out how the business could quote a price for a part we hadn't made yet, figure out how much to charge for it so we would get the business, knowing that the guys in the shop could construct machines that I could run that could make parts without error. So that's non-trivial. And to do that at scale. And so I had a real appreciation for attention to detail, quality control, hydraulic engineering, sort of the practical shop operations. Like there's a reason why the shop floor is painted with these great big yellow stripes that says, don't cross this line without looking both ways, because a monkey on a high-low is going to run you over with that forklift and ruin your day. So I kind of grew up in that environment when I'm a soccer player, a soccer coach, soccer mentor. I'm using the soccer program in our community to build tomorrow's leaders, to help young people really become who they are, which is now probably the most important thing that I do for the world, is helping those kids become prepared for whatever this thing is going to be that we're handing off to them, and who the fuck knows. I listened to the CEO of NVIDIA speaking today, a video that was sent to me by Eugene Crowfoot, a Lakota Sioux medicine man, also in the oil engineer, retired. And the CEO of NVIDIA says, look, our chips are so much better than everybody else's. We've essentially driven the price of computing to zero, and that it is within their capacity now to create a computer that can eat all of the internet and not just report on the themes and patterns, but actually start making sense of it, like creating potential meaning in between these bodies of knowledge that are out there. So we're, very close to that kind of a tipping point. So like I told my kids today, fucking buy NVIDIA stock and don't sell it for 30 years. And that's the Intel trade. If Andy Grove were alive, he'd be pulling his hair out looking at what has become of Intel. But there's about a 30-year window in there for NVIDIA to be amazing. I want the kids to know how to do that while getting on with their own professions. I'm teaching them about trading and risk management, but also not letting them do it until they've established their own professions and careers and let them find their own bliss. Like I wouldn't let them join the Army, and I'm not letting them follow me into this, although I'm training them in the cognitive and emotional skills and the critical thinking that I think it takes to be able to survive in a world that is already dominated by AI. The people that are worried about AI are people that haven't really thought their way through it. Like I hope more people use AI for investing and trading, not fewer, because that's relatively easy to figure out what the algorithms are doing, because they don't hesitate. They leave tracks in the snow, and you can put statistics on it, and you don't have to. It's like the story with the bear. You don't have to run faster than the bear. You got to run faster than the other guy that's trying to run away from the bear. So if you have just a working knowledge of math and statistics and impulse control, you have a persistent edge against the mass psychology that's out there, and you always will until human nature changes. So I think that's That's probably the safest bet, is that human nature is not going to change, that AI, much like alcohol, just makes people more of whatever it is they are. And it's going to be impulsive and emotional and prone to urges. And I would echo what Jay is saying about finding your niche and exploiting it. All the useful studies of who makes money trading, the decades-long studies of those things. It says it's people that find their niche and stick to it and turn off all the other noise and just go to work and do the thing that they do, provided they have systems that can survive 5 years of heavy use, and that's why I would say the in the upper right-hand corner, north of the soccer pitch, is that little. It was a sketch while I was, deep in thought and trying to just say, who am I at my central core being? And it's just a little old craftsman with a straw hat on to stay out of the sun and just working on his thing. The hands-on craftsman, kind of in a lotus position. It's not a 5x8 card that's all folded and rumpled and has coffee stains on it. That's pretty much who I am, is, don't waste anything and drink a lot of coffee and just know who you are. That image has been with me for over 55 years. I had read a book called The Master Game by Robert S. DeRope, who was kind of an early pharmaceutical astronaut in the Timothy Leary era. And he wrote a book called The Master Game, which sort of reverse engineered all of the Enlightenment movements, whether they were, cults or religions or disciplines or philosophies, and said, hey, what is the non-denominational agreements that these folks have? And one of them was the idea of the silent witness, that if you could construct a silent witness that would follow you all the time and look at everything you did and knew 100% what was on your mind when you made your decisions and would hold you accountable for that you could trust that person to be the perfect recorder. Well, it's like the karmic record that sees all, and but then also doesn't judge you for being human. In many ways, that is what my dad's relationship in my life is like for me, the owl, the guy whose values really are in my DNA. So that's who I am on the inside, is that little craftsman who just I never go anywhere that I can't walk home. Whatever the means of travel are, I know how to get back home, and I can walk that distance. Wherever, I know how it might take a long time, but I'm ready to walk home. And I know where that is. That next little creature was a gift from Mike Three Bears. It's a Zuni badger fetish. It's badger medicine, which represents persistence, protection of the hearth and home, rugged individual, a son of a bitch in a fight, good neighbor, thick skin, ready for whatever, and close to the earth, and knows that. So that's sort of the spirit animal of when it comes to nut cutting time, is just orneriness and gonna do it my way. It's always been my way in the Army and in life and in everything that I do. It's just, I'm never the biggest, strongest, fastest, smartest, but I'm not quitting. And you'll know you've been in a fight. So that has been really important for me in terms of resilience and willingness to keep going when the market teaches me lessons. I've learned how to do that. And the Badger is a good risk manager in that sense. Like you always gotta stay in the game. The 5 ways of knowing on the left-hand side there, the head, heart, gut, hands, and feet represents, in my view, our goal of total knowledge. 5 ways to learn. That the head knows the theory. The heart is who you are and what you stand for, what you won't stand for, what you won't tolerate. Don't tolerate the intolerable, and who you stand up for. The gut, what I have come to learn over the last probably 10 years, I guess, this is really, is that fear is the gift that lets you know it's important to be paying attention. I see that as the counterweight to the head. They both agree that we're in it for the heart. Whatever the heart vision that we're going to support, that's fine. I'll support that. The head figures everything out and is going to be meticulous and persuaded by evidence and rational and has some rounding errors in there as an engineer. And what the gut says is that no matter how complete you think your formulas and your models are, that there is a world outside of that that you've discounted that is still there, that populated by tigers and sharks, depending if you're a creature of the land or the sea. And what I've come to appreciate and respect about the gut is the idea that you had better respect that voice of fear on the inside, or it's going to keep nagging you until it demands you pay attention, and then you overreact or whatever, and you become captured by your fear. But if you neglect the fear or try to somehow control, which can't really happen, because the emotion of fear has already happened when you recognize it. It's already run its course, and it's given you energy to act. That's what the gift is. And what I've learned to understand about risk and reward is that while we think of a reward to risk ratio, I use the head to compute the reward potential using statistics and math and all that other stuff. The same statistics will give you some insights about what happened on the downside of that trade historically. The two great errors that one is one to say, well, I'm going to just round that off and discount it. Or I am thinking that I've already seen the worst that could happen. And then surprise, it's bigger than that. So there's entire categories of problems that are out there that are not computable. Complex adaptive systems that are open with reinforcing feedbacks. The market is probably one of those. And if you look at the time series on volatility in the last 20 or 30 years, what you see is you get larger and larger amplitudes and shorter, and not shorter is not the word, but more and more compressed frequency. So frequency is going up and the amplitude is higher. So the average can still be consistent with long-term historical averages, but it's an entirely different world, and it's only getting more so, not less. And when you take out all of the indecision that machine learning and digital decision making allows, you're getting more and more money run automatically, and that all that's doing is increasing the amplitude and frequency of volatility. And so if volatility is fear or what, no, it's just the potential for rates of change that are recognized by people with skin in the game. A close appreciation for that volatility really matters. And that's why I have been driving myself towards being more and more of a day trader and less of a longer term investor over time. So that 25 years ago, I was probably 90% modified buy and hold with relative strength. And 5% swing and 5% day. I'm now like about 20% monthly rebalancing with weekly adjustments and a 10% trailing stop, and about 40% swing trading in order to take advantage of what looks to me like the new swing trade that's reasonable is the 2 to 5 days. Whereas I used to say that was probably 5 to 10 days. It now feels like that exploitable edges in the overnight trades and the swing trades are now being processed and fully manifested in 3 to 5 days, where it used to take 2 full weeks for that swing to unfold. In the same way that it used to be that 10% was when they began talking about a correction and 20% was a bear market officially. When those two numbers were available and first being promulgated, the worst downside move in the S&P 500 prior to about 2003 was 24%. And the biggest stretch away from the 200-day moving average was 20%. So in terms of how far was the excursion away from that 200-day moving average, it was upside 20%, downside 24%. And so in the 4 great reconstitutions of the last 20 years, the internet bubble exploding, the long-term capital management exploding, the global financial crisis, and most recently the COVID. In each one of those 4 events, you had losses greater than 40%, in some cases 60 and 70%. And what was happening was that a 20%, when they would declare it a bear market, it was with the full confidence that they had already seen the worst move that had ever happened before, except for 1929. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, we can tell everybody it's now officially a bear, so now we can persuade the last gasp buy and holders to sell. So now we can buy that, knowing that the worst thing is over, and we're getting this enormous inventory at a great price, and now it's going to be a 44% move to the S&P, to the 200-day moving average, and then 20% beyond. So we're going to get a 40% move. Well, if you take a look at where these large bursts of index futures buying is now occurring, it's at 5% and 10%. So what used to be a correction at 10 is now probably at 5%, and they're acting like 10% sell-off is a bear, not 20%. So the aggressive guys are looking at 2.5% and 5%. So quickly, what you're seeing now is the speed at which these events can occur, and then the recovery sets up these oscillations that are happening faster and faster. And that's why, to me, the statistics of the day, measuring from the distance from high to low as a percentage, the distance between opens and closes as a percentage of follow through, and the from the close to the open to measure the gap, and then what the correlation coefficients of all those things are just simply telling me that the lowest risk trades I have are the intraday trades, because I'm trading things that are very liquid and the spread is small, and all of those surprise moves right from a big gap opening are getting manifested in big directional moves that have big reversal moves. And if I can just get my taste in the middle as the second mouse, and then only seek to carry home what I can carry, and that's where you're hitting singles and doubles really resonated with me, Jay, is that now involves my entire approach to trading the market. And then in some certain cases, when I have markets money, so I'm not touching my seed risk capital, I can use markets money to risk a portion of a gain that's in hand for the overnight trade if I think there's a reason to believe that it could be a gap in my favor. I'm horrible at predicting those, but I am disciplined in reducing the number of those so that when I'm wrong, I'm not getting murdered. So I'm still trying to work my way through how to draw that. I'm getting better at that. So I would say that coming back to the fear of those ways of knowing, that in order for me to be a balanced trader, to be an integrated whole person, well, I've got to have the knowledge of my hands to know how to craft the trade frame, how to set the calipers and put the blocks in and snug tight and do that and not take any shortcuts on the machine setup. Like I used to run a 30-ton Pines hydraulic bender, and that thing would go with 30 tons and it would hit a stop. And if that thing wasn't good, that thing could close on me. That's how dumb that machine was. So you better pay attention because those machines will bite your hands off if you take any shortcuts. So I learned how to do that. And I learned the importance in the Army as a jump master and as a live fire infantryman, the importance of attention to detail and pre-combat inspections and the preparation for the combat mission that you're about to go into. So I don't take shortcuts in those kinds of things. So those two previous life experiences really help me when it comes to emphasizing what I think is my edge, and that is a good enough plan, but violent preparation to be ready for the combat that I'm going into. Now, Van used to why do you always use that combat metaphor for trading? Well, what about, peace, love, and understanding? What's from the song? What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Well, that's not how I see trading. I see trading as a dogfight, and every dollar that I'm putting at risk is like the lives of my soldiers and are sacred. And I am trading for my children and the family. And I better bring my A game all the time and be prepared. If I've done that well, then execution should be the easiest thing for me because it's all battle drill triggered by an event and at a proper level of risk that I don't have to think about it. And I probably overestimate risks, and I'm more prepared for the risks that I don't actually see than otherwise, because I have learned to respect the fear, and that what it takes to persuade me that a gain is reasonable has to satisfy my rational mind. But when it comes to managing the fear, I have to account for the emotional caution that comes from that style of thinking, and that I have to present information to my gut mind, my fear mind, that says, essentially, I have listened to the concerns you have about the darkness and the fact that tigers and sharks are out there, and that we're not going to take a risk simply because we've reasoned our way through it, that the world is a jungle and we're going to account for it using what is satisfying to you on the gut side. So I'm always trading smaller than I mathematically could. I've had a lot of guys over the years say, if I was trading your style with your numbers, I would be risking these amounts of dollars. And I said, go ahead, knock yourself out. You're not going to persuade me to adopt your risk profile. That's a personal decision. So what I've learned is to be able to appreciate the power of the gut, to be able to anticipate risks and account for them as best I can before I take the risk that I feel I have to take in order to achieve the rewards that I envision. So two standards of evidence that are different. What it takes to persuade me is, hey, this could be a reasonable move. Okay, I'll take it. That's about how hard it has to be. I can make the first order estimate of what could be a reasonable, unsurprising move to the upside. Fine. When it comes to managing the risk, I'm a freaking lunatic when it comes to this could happen, that could happen, here's how far it could go, and this. And so my risk management takes a different, they're not symmetrical, is what I would say. And then the knowledge of the hands is just the technical pieces of how to set up the trade frame the same way every time through a standard lens, lather, rinse, and repeat on each individual case. And then the knowledge of the feet is how to do that over time for the next 10,000 trades without ever taking a shortcut. How do you do that when it's raining and snowing and dark and you're tired and you're walking through fire and all that stuff, and yet you're still bringing the same automatic, unconscious discipline that's driven by good quality, lean process? You know, cutting out the non-value added steps and then being absolute death on the checklists and the standards of performance. So those 5 ways of knowing have really become important for me. The knowledge of the head is that little circle that you see around my feet in that diagram, that what it is that I can see and frame and estimate. And the knowledge of the gut, that fear knowledge, is what's concerned about the entire rest of the universe that's out there waiting to eat me and my dreams, you know, and all my preconceived notions of success and all that. So I'm a fatalist in that sense. Below that is that true story roundabout. And in that circle where there's a fire that's always burning, that's the safe space that we create through our trust so that we can begin to tell the truth about what it is that we see and know and can tell about the journeys that we've been on to see, to just share what it is that we see. And that's where we're circumnavigating the elephant. 6 different points of view, each with its own masterful way of seeing the world that is attributed to your life experience and background. You see things that we don't see. And it's by talking about them without judgment and without fear of, you know, worry about being judged, that we can leverage each other's knowledge and insights. The real danger that comes from true story circles, which I talked to the general about this, was if we could construct a team of 6 people that came from all these different perspectives, and we genuinely could circumnavigate the elephant, and we solved a problem that in a way that one of those perspectives offered, and it turned out to be successful. Imagine how hard it is not to start converging on the very thing that made you successful. And now suddenly all the diversity and multiple perspectives that you worked so hard to get, you've gotten rid of because you had some temporary success from one angle. So we have to establish and then maintain these diverse points of view and perspectives. And that's one of the reasons that a true story circle can work, when you populate it with people that are free to talk about what they see, think, feel, and hear from their perspectives, and we're willing to listen, because that deep listening turns out to be even more important than the true story that you're telling. It's an act of courage to go inside yourself and report what you see, and do that with people who used to be strangers to you. That's hard to do, except to be able to genuinely turn off your active mind, if I can say it that way, and engage in deep listening and be open to all of the words and stories that are coming in without just waiting for your turn to talk, or seeing the point and then, I got it, I can stop listening, I'm ready to. Deep listening means you got to really stop all of that in order to genuinely listen. And I would argue that the most powerful benefit of a true story circle is that ability, is to just stop the monkey mind for a minute and just concentrate on what it is that you see and you hear and you feel, because that's what you're trying to do with the market all the time. It's trying to tell you things. And if you have gone in already knowing everything that you need to, you know, that's where you put up that cognitive dissonance. Hear me now, believe me later. I am not going to listen to, so I'm trying to listen carefully to Price. And that's what I wanted to say about that little circle. And as long as the fire is burning, you know, that I'm working. And those are the central features of who I am these days now at age 67, 8 months after my heart attack, and the vision quest that just helped me clean everything up and decide what it was I was going to do with life. And maybe the most important thing I learned out of all that was things that don't matter, they don't matter at all. Like if you in your rational mind say, well, that thing really doesn't matter to me, so I'm not gonna, but then you just enjoy thinking about how much it doesn't matter to you. Let me show you how much that doesn't matter to me. Let me tell you all about that thing that you do that doesn't matter to me. Then it does matter to you. So I've sort of learned that the things that matter a lot, and the things that don't matter at all. And you just offer all that to the universe, and it will figure out what to do with your story and your ideas and what you bring to the table. That's its job. Your job is just to do your best all the time, well as you can, and then accept the results as what they are. And you let the universe figure out what it means. You don't have to listen to other people trying to make sense of whatever. You just do the things you think are correct, and be accountable for them, and tell the truth about them, and that will really set you free. When I found myself speaking about my vision questing with the Lakota Sioux medicine man, who's one of my guides to the 3-star general, completely unplanned, but it was the right thing to do at the time. It sort of, he didn't flinch in a second, because he's a pretty deep cut guy. So that's kind of who I am right there. What I would invite you to do, since it's coming up on 8/21, it's really important for you guys to come to these little sessions with your story and your stuff. And because if you let me talk, I probably will. And I that's not the intention, I've already said more tonight than I planned to during the other sessions. I'm going to try to be a good listener and really have a co-creative process in here. And I'm excited to see where it is that we end up going. Such a diverse group of guys with experiences that are just amazing. We're going to see things that we hadn't planned on or thought were possible or whatever. It's going to be a real adventure. And I'm excited about working with you on this. What I would strongly suggest is to listen to that modified SWOT analysis lesson that's in the Rizuku course, and kind of just think your way through that as an organized way of doing a self-inventory and coming up with strategies for things that you want to do, or projects or tasks. Like, I want to put my strengths on opportunities for big wins, category 1. How do I get my strength on the good opportunities to thrive? Strategy 2, how do I prevent the threat from getting on my weakness? How can I be shifty and avoid and stealthy to not get bit by these carnivores that are coming for me? So being really careful. That's category 2. How to avoid disasters in areas where you're weak. Know that. Because you're not going to just get strong overnight, but you're weak now, and the threat's coming. Category 3 is, how do I seize opportunities to improve my weaknesses that are low cost, easy to do, low risk, and obviously helpful? Like, get more sleep and have a better nutrition and exercise a little more, and be kind to yourself. If you would be kind to a 8-year-old that was crying, because that's what you would do. Let's try to be kind to ourselves in that same way. So we have that capacity. So just try that, practice it. So that's a low cost, no risk, easy to implement way to raise your level of fitness and health. That's category 3. Category 4 is, it may be that the threat is so powerful that I have to use my strength to defeat that threat rather than just try to, I got to go confront it. Now, I'd rather use my strength on things that are going to have huge positive payoffs, but maybe I just got to use my strength preemptively to just insist that that threat's not going to get me. I'm going to be proactive about defeating that particular threat. So if those are the 4 categories of strategies, when I think about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, category 5 is what I'm actually going to do. I'm going to take a look at all of those things that I could do and come up with my blended list of things that I'm going to do. And I'm going to do first things first and use baby steps, but keep moving. It turns out that the first step, you thought the first step was the hardest, to go from stationary to taking the first step. But it turns out after you take the first step, you realize all the things that, well, it could have gone wrong and it might have been this way. And now you've thought about it a little bit. The second step is harder to take because now you know a little bit more about how wrong it can go. So the second step is harder than the first, but it turns out that the second step is the hardest one. After that, 3, 4, 5, it's just N. It's 1 to N now. And you start picking up the rhythm and you get over the thoughts of fear and all the things that can go wrong. You've taken more than the prudent precautions and you just go, and now you're going to learn by doing. And now I have teachable moments. And don't waste failure. You know, that's where you're going to learn the most of those things. So fail at a level you can. Fail often, fail forward, fail by design, fail in order to learn, fail in order to take action on the next best thing with this new precious information. Most people don't get a lot of information about how they fail, because after the first couple of those, they say, well, I'm never doing that again. And then they never take the risks that are necessary. So we got to learn how to fail forward often, carefully, by plan, by design, and that comes down to position sizing to get the information. To me, I start trading ideas. I trade them forward with skin in the game fast, because I don't want to get caught in my preference, which is to analysis paralysis and too much back testing. I need just enough to say, well, there's no obviously stupid reason not to do this. So let me start trading it forward right away at 1 live share or at prototype level, and then grow towards a production system. It will find its natural limit through action. And if you believe the market is learning from the things that you're also doing, it's changing anyway. And I just think that the rate of change of volatility is saying that how valuable are all those back tests anyway? I don't know. You can't even answer that question. What's the shelf life of a back test? Well, it depends on what the forward unforeseen changes are going to be. That's what determines the shelf life, is what the future environmental conditions are going to be. And you can't know that. So I would just say, let's go and get on with it. So I would say, listen to last night's session with the cohort 1 guys. There was a pretty good representation of where they are now 4 months into the process. Their performance numbers are really good, each and every one of them, regardless of the level of expertise that they're at. And there's a real range of expertise in there too. And you'll see a pretty good sample of how to present what it is that they want to say for each week, and then how that call and response goes. If you figure out each night, probably 5-minute update of where you are, what you're doing, what's next, what help you need, that kind of stuff, and 5 minutes of dialogue from me and from the other guys, times 5 guys, that's a good solid hour. And I'm not saying cut out the crap, of course, our discussions are always good, but we'll make a lot of will create a lot of value with a concise hourly check-in and action plans looking forward. Now, I would also say, I'm always an email away. So if there's a question like, it's Wednesday, so I gotta wait till Tuesday. No, just ask the fucking question, right? And I'll get it into the nightly podcast, or I'll send you a note back. And so we want to keep going with this. It's okay to be stuck. Just don't stay stuck too long. Being stuck means that you got skin in the game and you're trying and you're using energy. Just don't stay stuck too long if it's something that I can help with. So let me say it that way. All right, let me just do a quick checkout as we go around the horn and just say, this is still the 0 week. Take a look make sure you can navigate through the online course and all that stuff. And I would just start thinking about your first draft strategy plan. That can be as close to a final draft or early stages, wherever you are on Tuesday next week. That's where you are, and that's where our start point will be. I would suggest the modified SWOT analysis is a good way to get a systematic approach to that. Kevin, I think that would especially useful for you, because as you start going through the inventory, other possibilities of where you want to be in 5 years, what you want people to say about you when you're 80, is a way to start working backwards from those visions and end states. My big 5 for life, I'll conclude on this: husband, father, teacher, student, and warrior. When I'm dead, I want my wife to say I was a good husband. I want my kids to say I was a good father. I want my teachers to say I was a good student. I want my students to say I was a good teacher. And I want the weak, poor, and powerless of the world to say that I was a warrior on their behalf against the forces of evil, that I was a warrior for them. And that's my life as service and duty. So think about those. What do you want them to say when you're dead? Work backwards and figure it out. I'm not going to kick George out because he's in cohort 1. So, but I'm going to prevent other folks from coming. So let me do a quick checkout from you guys once around.
Sounds good. I like everything you said, and it fits right into formulating a plan to make this as productive as possible.
Cool. Aho. That's Lakota for amen, or as it should be. Aho.
Oh,
Yeah, and I'm basically looking forward to learning, from all you guys, and to picking the brains of Jay in option trading, because I'm also an option trader, and I have some lack of knowledge, so I can't wait for him and I to exchange some ideas and so on. So I'm looking forward to the next 15 weeks, and I think it's going to be interesting for all of us.
Aho.
I hope.
Yeah, looking forward to I tend to overanalyze, and just part of my job was always to make sure everything was always right. So I know in trading I can't be right all the time, and so it's great to have a place to discuss the things that are going on and get encouragement to keep moving forward, and want to be successful at it, and put best foot forward, getting going, and I really appreciate opportunity to learn from you, Ken, and from the other guys. It's been great. Looking forward to it.
Aho.
Same for me. Hopefully I can get this figured out, but looking forward to it. And, I'm certainly wouldn't claim I'm an expert in options, but I can share what I know. Happy to do so with the group at any time.
Appreciate it, Jay. George, good to see you. You doing all right?
Yeah, can't complain.
Well, I gotta turn this off in order to get the processing started. I'll start up the nightly in about probably 10 minutes. So it'll take
Let's
me
see
a
you
little time.
guys
Thanks,
all
Ken.
next week.
Thanks,
Take
guys.
care. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Cheers.